And we are live. What is going on with everybody? It is your
Hello.
boy, Eric, aka Young God, coming to you live in the Green Dungeon, giving it to you real raw rugged. And hey, let me see. I said this actually a couple days ago in the interview, but probably about I don't know 7 people. Usually I have people introduce themselves. I got somebody in line right now that I feel like I gotta introduce myself because it's a very special person. Have over 200 interviews. I only did this for about 7 people, so hey man, have probably the most important person in
So enough
YouTube
of this.
history.
That part has never
Wow.
happened before.
TV just cut on out of nowhere. He just fucked everything up. That is hilarious. Hey man, we got Kassem G, man. Everything was fucked up. I was gonna give you a crazy introduction, man. Fuck it,
No,
man.
yeah. I was feeling weird about the crazy introduction, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you asking me. It's been a while trying to get me on here, and I appreciate you being patient with me. And I'm just happy we, had the chance to finally do it. And anyone that actually still remembers me, like, and then asked for an interview, it's like, okay, that's super beyond flattering, and I'm happy to kind of be here and do it for you.
Well, you don't know how crazy this is, so this is really, really crazy because let me take a step back and let me tell you something. So, probably about 6 years ago, I started doing YouTube, started doing music reviews, only music reviews,
Mm-hmm.
and I would always remember Jimmy Kimmel would do like man on the street videos. I was like, oh, those are funny. I want to do those. So I
Yeah.
got a microphone one day and I started doing man on the street videos. And somebody comments one day, they say, wow, you're like this is an exact quote that somebody said. You're like Kassem G if Kassem G was a nigga. That was the exact quote somebody said. So in the back of my mind, I said Kassem G, and I said, wow, subconscious is a big part of this interview right here. I was like, wow, Jimmy Kimmel didn't fucking influence me. That was Kassem G is what I'm doing right here.
That's
So I'm
funny,
thinking
dude.
like, wow. So I go back and start looking at all your videos. I'm like, wow. I'm like, how did I not connect the pieces and realize that I'm doing this subconsciously influenced by Kassem G? And I just thought that was crazy. And then it comes around like a month ago. I'm like I said, I interview a lot of people, and one day I was like, you know what? You know who don't get interviewed a lot? Porn stars. I was like, I feel like when I was looking at a porn star interview, it was this creepy old guy. He was like, yeah, can I feel your ass? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this nigga's disgusting. So I was
Yeah.
like, let me start interviewing porn stars and make them feel like humans and not sexual objects. Let me see how that works. And somebody commented again. They was like, wow, you're like Kassem G. And I was
No,
like,
no.
Kassem G did do the. I'm like, this shit is crazy. So this is a really wild moment right now, and in my YouTube history, bro.
Yeah, well, look, I appreciate all that, and I definitely wasn't the first person to do a man on the street interview. When I was younger, it was a lot of, I'm not a huge Jay Leno fan, but it was a lot of like
Yeah.
jaywalking, and Jay Leno was the guy doing man on the street stuff, and Conan would, occasionally do it, but it's nothing new. I was just like, one day I remember just, um, I was like very, very unhappy at my job. I was like selling, TVs and home theater equipment. And I remember I called in sick and like borrowed a camera and went to Radio Shack and got a microphone and took my roommate and just hit like Santa Monica Beach and Venice Beach and just did something that like I don't know. I don't really know what the oh it was Philip DeFranco had a news show, and he was, he still has it, and me and him kind of occasionally would talk, and I knew that he did news stories, he covered news stories, right? So I was like, well, is there anything like you're doing in an upcoming episode where I could do like a field piece for, go out and just ask people on the street kind of what their thoughts are on that particular subject? And he had one. I think it was about like a Miss. It was like a Miss California. Something about Miss California was in the news, and I just went down there and just asked a bunch of people. Didn't know how to work a camera. Everything was super blown out, and like I didn't know how to do a white balance. The Radio Shack cord was super short, so like the framing was like very tight, and people's heads were cut off. And I just, but for some reason, when I edited it together and just kind of like got these quick little sound bites and put them together, it worked really well in that quote unquote field piece, and people responded to it really well, and I was quick to do it again after that. But yeah, I mean, somebody did it before me, and people do it now, and I don't really do it. It's just it's going to be one of those things. The porn star thing was a little that was more based on like an Inside the Actor Studio, which is like a show I used to like think was just so wild and unintentionally hilarious. But the host James Lipton was just a super very dry um, man who was always in awe of like the guests and the actors that he had on his show, and really took the craft of acting super seriously. And like I respect acting and I appreciate all that stuff, but he like really got down to the intricacies of it, and I thought it would be funny if somebody was doing that and taking porn super seriously and asking actresses like what their motivation was. And and that's, they're not super original ideas. It just happened to be like at the right time, and I had the resources to do it. And now that I'm like 36, I have like kind of mixed feelings about being the guy that did that. But I was younger, and I'm happy that we did it, and it was a good time overall. And changed my life. YouTube did so.
Wait, man, I appreciate your humbleness, but my nigga, you're the goat. Like, stop. Let's stop with all of the. It's not original. I mean, I did it, but somebody did it before me. Hey, like, I don't care who the hell did it before you,
Yeah,
after
put
you.
me in my place.
You are like, because let me tell you. So I think I'm a pretty positive person, but I have this thing where I like hate watching stuff. I hate watch a lot of stuff, and I hate watch public interviews. I hate watch man on the street interviews from this era because I feel like a lot. I don't know the last man on the street video you've seen, but the more like popular people in that field, what they do is, let's say they're interviewing somebody, and let's say somebody says something crazy like, "Yeah, I slept with my father." Instead of them saying something like witty off the top of their head, they put like a video meme. So it'd be like a meme of like Kevin Hart looking crazy instead of actually coming up with a response himself.
Oh, yeah, it's just a little lazier, I guess, huh?
Exactly.
Well, memes, I'm glad I was kind of around before, like, the memes took hold. Although I do appreciate a good meme,
Yeah.
every now and then. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like all about the person-to-person connection on the beach, and that's kind of what I thought was interesting about it. But not to knock anyone's current,
Oh no, I'm
marriage.
knocking it. I'm knocking it. But I literally seen somebody say that they slept with their niece, and the guy said, "Wow, really? What's your Instagram?" I was like, "What the fuck?" My nigga, he just said he slept with his niece. So that
Yeah.
stuff like that is crazy to me, and I don't think people understand like what you do, what I do to a very lesser extent. It's really like improv stand up comedy because you have to be thinking on all cylinders because it's not as easy just talking to somebody and just rapid firing, just like thinking of funny stuff. That is not an
Yeah.
easy thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's it was. I assume it's not a skill everyone has. I mean, I used to, I was like in sales for a long time, so it's like you have to get in the habit of like cold starting interviews with people, and also like we talked to a lot of people who just weren't having it, and those interviews just never made it.
Yeah.
So it's like that's part of the reason it took like a few hours to get down to like a 3 minute interview that I thought was like worth putting up on the internet. So it took a lot of time. And then after a while, what happened at like Venice Beach was like all these pranksters came out of nowhere, and they started fucking with people on the boardwalk, and like the people in Venice were starting to get upset, and like every person on the boardwalk, it seemed like, had a camera and was trying to make a YouTube video. And I felt like kind of responsible for bringing that kind of attention on Venice Beach. But yeah, it seemed like it was a good time to kind of stop. But it's an election year, and if there was any, in a year to come back and do something, this would probably be the year. I think it's the reason why Rage Against the Machine's getting back together.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
it's like it's a good time to raise awareness for certain things, because potentially the next 4 years the country is going to either just keep going the way it's going, or it'll get better or worse. I don't know, but it's a good time to get people at least to vote, I think.
It's funny that you bring up the election here because I have an idea for a video. I want to run it by you. I want to see what you think about it.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it a little bit later though. But I want to run back what you just said about you kind of distancing yourself because of pranksters and things like that. Because I heard you say that in your Lincoln Rhett episode where you did the podcast with them. I
Uh-huh.
heard you saying that, and that made me think like, wow, it's very similar because I went viral a couple times with those videos, but I've taken a step back because I see a lot of those people who do the public interviews. It's just really crazy. Like I've seen people like, "Yo, if, I'm gonna ask you a question. If you get it wrong, get to slap your butt." And it's like, "Whoa, that's crazy."
Yeah,
So I want to.
yeah,
I don't want to be the person where I'm standing there. I'm like, "Hey, I'm doing interviews," and they're like, "Oh, you're one of those people." I'm like, "No, I'm not one of those people." So it's kind of
yeah.
weird.
It's hard to differentiate because when you're just a random person walking down the boardwalk, every person with a camera and a microphone just is they're all the same to you, right? And I should clarify is there's a lot of people that do pranks really well. Like I think a good harmless prank, a prank where at like the end where everyone's laughing, and like no one was hurt, no one was made fun of. I think those are like my favorite.
Yeah.
But there was a genre of like super aggressive, um, like hey kiss me if you get this answer wrong,
Yeah.
or a lot of staged stuff.
Hmm.
Like it was just kind of like gross to me. But there are guys that do it really well. You know what I mean? I think like guys like Ed Bassmaster, guys that just do like really. They're the ones that look really stupid, but they're making people laugh all around them. I think that's how I like to watch a prank. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I think people are really I don't know. I feel like YouTube pranks and public videos as the years become more, I guess, older. Everybody is starting to get feel like, I guess, more intrusive on people's privacy almost.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I feel like that's a very it's weird because when you're doing these like public interviews, it's hard to balance the line. You're like, you don't want to get too disrespectful, but I've heard
yeah.
some dumb stuff, and it's like, yo, I have to let you know you're a bumbling idiot. Like you might
No,
slap me for it, but
yeah.
man, like
And you know
it's
what? When I
crazy.
was younger, I crossed that line a couple times too, and like I just didn't know, And as I figured out, like, oh, that's not something I should say or do,
Yeah,
and like I had to learn the hard way, But there are people that kind of just like made their bones doing that kind of thing, and I mean, every person finds a way to make a niche, carve out a niche on YouTube in their own way. So it's like I can't fault them for that. They're at least trying, you know, and that's what's good about YouTube is like you can essentially try whatever you want. It's up to the people watching if they want to keep watching and subscribing or not. It's very democratic in that way, and I like that.
I think you are a tad bit more safer than the route I go because I'm outside of a club, and I'm also outside of a black club where people see me
Mm.
because I go out with the bonnet, so people see me with the bonnet, and
Hmm.
I've definitely had like dudes trying to impress their girlfriends, like, "Oh, I ain't finna have this dude ask me nothing in a bonnet." And it's like, all right, sir, like it's just how far I
Yeah.
choke you to death, like calm down. So I think I don't know, man, it's a very interesting genre. Like, did you ever feel to the point where I don't know. I know you said in that same episode that you thought somebody may kill you. You were getting like anxiety and panic attacks and things of that such,
Yeah,
right?
I did develop a little bit of a sort of like real bad anxiety there for a while. It's so weird you mentioned that because it's like Venice Beach I'd always come back to and like it felt like home after a while. But anytime we did it somewhere else, either in LA or like other states, a very different vibe. I tried it in New York once and I just don't have like the pace. Like people are just walking fast. I literally can't keep up with people there. But like something about Venice, which is since it's like the number two biggest tourist destination in California, there's like a relaxed sort of demeanor people have when they're walking down the boardwalk that allows and invites like there's people with like giant snakes around their necks and there's like a dude on the rollerblades with a guitar. It's like you're gonna see wild shit. People are
Yeah.
gonna come up to you. That's all part of the experience. But when you're doing it in a place that isn't like that, it's the tone is very different. People are like not they have their guards up, their walls are up. They don't want to talk to anyone. They get mad at you just even like asking. And yeah, I mean, there's been times when people are upset and like maybe I generally towards the end was like, you didn't want to be on, like, all right, thank you so much, just have a great day. But like sometimes when I was younger, I'd be like, all right, if somebody said something rude, I'd say something rude back, and then like, you have to figure out real quick whether or not that person's gonna. You have to size up that person whether they have a screw loose or not. Sometimes you size them up wrong, and maybe you say something you shouldn't have said, or you should have just let it go, or you shouldn't approach that person, and they get in your face. I mean, that's part of it, right? But I remember in like South by Southwest specifically, I think there was like, and that video's still up. There was like a guy in there. I think he was in a gang. I'm not really sure, but he was like, anytime people see a camera, they also see like an opportunity to get famous really fast, even if they have no idea where that video is going to end up. They see like, oh, I'm going to get famous real quick, you know, and then they do like a stunt. They try and say something. They get physical, and some guy came up like in my face, and I think some dude slapped me,
I
and I'm
watched
not.
that video yesterday and I couldn't find that. I thought I remembered
It
that, but
might
I
have
can't
gotten
find it.
cut out, but I'm pretty sure the dude either tried to slap me or did slap me, and like I
What
went up running after him and like not to like fight him or anything. I just wanted to get him on camera.
was it?
Like
The dude you were
my
yelling
instinct
at?
was there was a guy that was yelling at me, and I think it was South by Southwest video, but yeah, it's just an example of you don't know exactly what's going to happen because it's the real world. And like when you enter people's space, you have to understand that you're the one disrupting it and it's not them. And people are going to react like how they're going to react. And, you know, as the interviewer and the person with the microphone and the camera, you have to take on some sort of responsibility there. And you know, I probably danced on that line a couple times, but for the most part, I was pretty good. For the like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times, I'd walk away the interview with somebody after it was over, and they were like super jazzed. You know, like they're like, "Hey, where can I find that?" And they were just like stoked. Everything was super friendly. And those were, you know, that was the fun of it. But yeah, 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 times it could go sideways.
It's very funny you said you went to New York and you couldn't just keep up with everybody because for the
Yeah,
first time in my life in August I went to LA and I just swore on everything. I was gonna go crazy with this video. I'm like, man, this is gonna be the best video ever because
right.
I knew a porn star out there and I told her I said let's do a video. I said I'm gonna have you go up to random people and ask them would they smash a porn star. They respond, then you ask them would they date a porn star, and hopefully their response would be like, oh no, that's disgusting. I would never date a porn star. And then for them to find out that she was a porn star, see their reaction. That shit didn't go good. That shit did not go the way I
Yeah,
expected to.
it's weird. Yeah, I mean, the porn star's got to have a really good sense of humor in that sort of case when they have to kind of know that people are going to react in a way that you know she may not like, and then people also just hate to look like a dick too when they're you know when they're saying something about a thing that they don't think is right there, and then you pull out that thing and like, actually, here's one right here, and then people can have like that's one of those things where it could get sideways. You never really know. I knew a guy who did a prank where he was like it was like fake bang bus,
Mm.
and the idea is super funny, but it's something I would never do, and like I feel bad for the guy, but like he got this guy to come in this van and. And it was like gonna be like a bang bus situation where there was like a girl in there, but he didn't know it was gonna be on. I forget, but I should have probably looked it up if I was gonna talk about it. But the guy looked really bad, and the video got a ton of views, and like it was ruining the guy's life,
Mm.
and that they never took down the video, and it's like, ooh, you you can do some real damage if you're not careful, you know, because it's like everything's contained when you're shooting it, and you're like, it's just here's a day, we got a camera, and we're just at the beach. It's like 3 p.m. on a Friday, but when that video goes up online, and all of a sudden, like hundreds of thousands of people, like millions of people are watching it, and you get people that you work with or seen you in this video, and you were clearly like a victim of like kind of a malicious prank, it can fuck up your life, and felt super bad about that, and you know, guys that are doing pranks like that really, I don't think in the moment are thinking about that person's well-being. They're thinking about like, ooh, this is gonna get clicked on, you know, and this is gonna go potentially go viral. I think bringing a porn star out is really not that bad. You know what I mean? I think it's just I think that's kind of funny if you have a porn star who's essentially in on the joke.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's fine. I think you get a pass for that one.
I feel like uh, when I went to LA, everybody was careful of what they were saying, and I was so not used to that because in Jacksonville, I feel like everybody's kind of just like, if it's on their mind, they're going to say it. And
Yeah,
I've kind of dealt with that thing where it's like, I'm pretty sure you probably dealt with it too, where like somebody said something on the camera, and you're like, should I put this on the internet? Because this is pretty crazy for them to say. I think
Yeah.
like one of the craziest things I ever heard was I asked this girl, there was two girls. I say, uh, do you care if you sexually satisfy your partner? The girl, for whatever reason, I don't know if she's like fucking deaf. She said, "Would I date a sexual pedophile?" And I just bust out laughing. So I'm busting
Uh,
out laughing, and her friend, I'm walking away. I'm like just laughing all over the place. I didn't hear this, so I'm editing it. The girl says next to her, she says, "Girl, he asked what I did, a sexual pedophile." The girl says, "Sexual pedophile? I'm dating one right now. Ain't nothing wrong with that." And I was like, "Whoa, should I
yeah.
post this?" I posted it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know if I should or not. So yeah, like, have you ever dealt with that?
Well, there's been a lot of times where because people, when they're put in front of a camera, they generally, some of them like get weird,
Yeah.
and some of them like get just, they tense up and then they like lose all sort of personality and then they think they're just super worried about what they're going to say. And then sometimes people just have the opposite effect where they just say anything and then they realize something they said is bad. I was always pretty good about like, hey, if you don't want that in, we can cut that out. And generally, as like the those videos went on, they might have gotten like less and less interesting as far as like people saying really wild shit because more people were understanding the impact of like YouTube towards those later years, and they were like, "Ooh, yeah, I don't. I should probably be careful. Like, I got a job, and
Yeah.
like, But if somebody most of the time somebody was like, yeah, can you just, and sometimes I'll get an email later saying, hey dude, can you take that video down, or can you do something about me saying that thing, or cut that part out. If I agreed with it and I agreed that it wasn't like the greatest thing, I was pretty okay with cutting stuff like that out. But that all came from like figuring out, early on, and making the mistake of like, oh, that person said something, and then I did put it up, and then it was like, ooh, and I'd have to go back and retroactively take those videos down. But like, I wouldn't have known kind of what the effect of some of those things if I hadn't done it in the first place. But yeah, I can't imagine what LA's like now. There's like there's a lot of woke culture, and there's a lot of everyone's super careful with like the things that they choose to say, especially when it comes to like gender and gender identity and sexual preference and things like that. It would be a pretty interesting experience, an experiment to go and try and see what that was like now. But I would imagine people are going to be very careful with what they say. And that's probably just specifically an LA thing, maybe in New York. But, that's what's great about other places is that they haven't been impacted by the woke culture in that way. And you still get sort of like that realness that some of these like places like LA are missing. Um, Yeah, and I kind of miss that. Sometimes you just want to hear people because we joke around. We say things like behind closed doors. Make jokes and things that like we wouldn't say at our job and we wouldn't say on camera. And sometimes it's just refreshing to hear those things. It's part of the reason why like I think there's going to be a resurgence in that sort of comedy. And I think Chappelle and like Bill Burr and guys like this are kind of fighting against woke culture in that way because we've missed those kind of jokes for a long time, and like we should be able to like laugh and understand that like most of it's harmless, and it's important to be able to like look at a thing and have an opinion about it, whether it's good or bad, and without having to worry about who's gonna like send us a letter and like who's gonna get mad and
Yeah.
who's gonna try and get our Twitter deleted. And it's kind of like it's a fine line. It will happen with like Louis C.K., which is all deserved, by the way. But like those sort of things are okay. But when we go too far and like try and censor jokes and like go back to people's Twitter history, then I think that's where I have more of an issue with it. But yeah, I mean, we change every year, so it's like you got to be able to roll with the punches. And if you make good enough jokes that aren't easy kind of hack jokes, then it's most people give you a pass for that because you can usually frame and structure a joke that's controversial, but like in a way that makes a statement that's also funny. Um, yeah, I think if I were to go out today, it would be a lot harder of a job than it was when I was going out for sure.
No, I agree. I feel like there's definitely a lot of places in society where I feel like certain things has progressed and it's great. It's like, oh yes, we finally see this certain way. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
I do think that there's other parts, like certainly in Jacksonville, where it's like still 2005, and it's great. I'm not gonna lie. Like people don't know they shouldn't be saying certain stuff, and I'm like, yo,
yeah,
keep talking. This is hilarious. Like it's certain
yeah, yeah,
people that just like they don't know. But like you said, in LA, I feel like it's more of a culture to be kind of like enlightened about certain things, or certain
yeah.
things. So I do think there's difference in cultures. And I'm not gonna lie, I went to LA and I didn't like LA at all. I really wasn't a fan. I
Oh
thought I was
yeah.
gonna love it. I
What didn't you like about it? I
Man,
mean, I totally can see why, but I'd love to hear why you
it felt
thought.
fake, man. If like I said, I'm from Florida, Jacksonville, and I feel like everybody just very upfront. And when I went there, it felt like the way you described New York. Everybody had on their AirPods. They were looking down at their
Yeah,
phone. They were walking
yeah,
really
yeah.
fast. I'm like, hey, hey, hey. And they're like, I asked this one girl. I said, hey, excuse me. She said, no, thank you. I didn't even say I had a. I didn't say I was going to do. I was like, well, how you know what I'm about to say? So yeah, it just
Yeah.
felt very like fake and not real, and I didn't like that atmosphere.
Yeah, that is a thing. There's just a lot of people out here that are like that, and like it's. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's good for certain things, and it's like bad when it comes to like trying to have a laugh about stuff. But be thankful you live in a place where you can still kind of say whatever you want, and not have to worry about being canceled or arrested. I think that's interesting. And I wonder if we'll ever kind of swing back the other way. When people will just get so over being so uptight that we'll see another kind of swing. Like an old Lenny Bruce era type moment where some big, like a Richard Pryor type guy comes around, some just real foul mouth against the grain guy who just makes such a big splash that it's impossible to ignore, and that kind of changes, you know, that whole decade's worth of comedy, changes the tide. It's interesting from a sociological point of view for sure.
It's very
And
interesting.
then yeah, and then as I get older, that's also part of it too, because it's like certain things aren't as funny to me as
Yeah.
they were when I was younger, and then like things that I thought were like super lame when I was younger are funny to me now, and like watching politics and stuff like that was just so boring to me when I was like in my early 20s, and now that's like some of the funniest shit, like watching a debate and watching well, Trump makes it pretty easy, but that stuff is like I can't believe some of the shit that's going on. Yeah, we get older, culture changes, and it's kind of how we merge those two things together: our own sensibilities versus what's happening socially in the climate. Is interesting to me at least.
Nah, I mean, you could have said it better. I feel like politics are hilarious. Like it's Trump. I feel like Trump. He kind of knows he's a meme. I feel like he's just playing it up right now. He just he
Oh
says
yeah,
certain stuff, and but
he's a
there's certain.
master troll.
Yeah, he's a troll. But it's certain
Yeah,
people that don't know it, and it's hilarious. Like I think it was like the Democrat debate, and they asked this white dude something about Mexican kids or something, and the nigga just started speaking Spanish out of nowhere. I'm like, my nigga, nobody asked you to do that, and he was so dead serious. I'm like, bro, shut up.
dude. Yeah,
So yeah, it's really wild. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man. I think that I don't I don't know if I could see that resurgence of people just like kind of not caring and just letting balls hang out. I feel like it's progressing to a place where it's just going to keep getting more and more like how it is. To
Yeah,
be
I
honest
mean,
with
you
you.
may be right, but I hope you're wrong, sort of thing.
Hope so too. I hope so
Yeah.
too because I'm a person. I don't really like to censor people's speech. I feel like there's certain things where it's like yo, I've heard people say certain things like, "Yo, you need to get your ass beat for that." And I got like what's the comedian dude, Ari Shafir, the dude that made the Kobe
Oh
thing.
yeah, with the
Like,
Kobe stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I don't even know like how there was a joke inside of that. I didn't really get it. So it's like stuff like that. It's like yeah, he obviously needs his ass beat. Like I think everybody collectively came together and said that. But I do think on the other hand, there's people who like somebody would do something really big, like they'll win like an Oscar, and they'll go into Twitter and be like, ah, let's see if this person said nigger in their lifetime. It's like, whoa, like, what made you even think of that? Like, it's weird, man.
Yeah.
It's weird, man.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. The whole Ari Shafir thing. It's tough to see because I like Ari Shafir and I like his comedy generally. He is kind of known for that sort of outrageous post mortem sort of thing. It just hit differently this time because Kobe Kobe was different. He's not a regular dude, but that's part of what I think Ari Shaffir was trying to say is that we kind of make exceptions for people that are bigger than life and almost untouchable. And I just don't think his execution of that message was the greatest. And yeah, the dude the dude upset a lot of people,
Well,
and it's and I don't blame people for being angry about it.
I wonder your take on this because I seen that he was saying that if somebody dies, he'll have his fans, like his fans will come to him and be like, "Yo, this person just died 2 days ago. You haven't made like a tweet or a video like picking on them or whatnot." And I feel like as like content creators, you never want to let down, or you never want to lose people that were already
Right.
fans or whatnot. So you don't want to let them down. But I do think there's a thing where you have to kind of outgrow people, and if they can't grow with you, you got to leave them behind. So you kind of leaving all of your interviews and your going deep behind. Do you feel like there were a certain community of people that you kind of had to outgrow as you did that?
Um, yeah, it's a great question. It's it's always one that like people just don't understand why I would like sort of walk away from doing those interviews that people really liked and part of it is like I outgrew it. Not to say that I couldn't do a version of it now that fit my sensibility and like um, would be funny to me, but I always figured that I would lose a lot of the people that were there just for those things, but ultimately there still would be like a core group of people that are interested in just like me, and that's a probably a much smaller group,
Yeah.
but like I'm interested in the people that are just into Kassem videos, period, regardless of like what age he is and what he's doing. Um, those are the people I feel like I want to bring with me. There are people who are just fans of just the interviews on the street, and then they're just fans of the porn star interviews, and they're not like really fans of mine, which is weird to say, but they're more attached to those formats than they are like the person doing them, and that's okay too. Like I appreciate all those people, and I think like the internet's been around long enough now to where you see people on YouTube like they go through these like weird epochs and like these big shifts in their personality and then their content, and those are the people that are fans of that person following them around. There's there's the people that are just fans of just the format. Those people kind of come and go, um, and it's I'm not too worried about like being super and pleasing like the like never satisfied machine of like YouTube viewers. It became to a point where it was like super unhappy trying to just like constantly feed this monster, and like it took like a mental toll on me and like a physical toll, and um, like generally wasn't the happiest person during those times, and now I'm a much happier person, and like I get to do a podcast with some buddies, and like gonna have probably another podcast that I do, and then like a few YouTube videos this year, which is like big news for me, but like compared to my output 10 years ago is not nearly as much. But also I think I'm a lot smarter of a dude now. I think I'm more interesting, and I'm happier and healthier, and like to me the people that are into me will probably really be into what they see this year and what they've been seeing like in the podcast. But yeah, if you're a fan just of the old stuff and that's all you care about, you'll probably be let down, you know. But like I said, I'll never like say I'll never do that stuff again. I think there's a way to kind of bring those things into 2020, and do them in a way that fits me as like a 36-year-old and fits like the social climate in a way that they didn't do before.
I feel like there's people don't really, because you said that like you were physically and mentally kind of taking a toll from it, and people were just asking like, "Hey, where's the videos? Where's the videos?" Not really trying to see how you were. I don't feel like people really care about the artist and the people that create things, they don't really care about them. They care about the art, which I understand. People don't really care for people that much, but I think that that's kind of a weird thing because I'm a huge rap fan. So when I'm listening to rap, I'm hearing certain songs where it's like people are saying crazy stuff, but people are just like bobbing their head to it, like, "Yo, I just killed this guy. I can't go to sleep at night." And it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's a really sad thing. And people are like, "I'm addicted to lean. I'm addicted to pills." It's like, yo, we should like worry about this person. So I feel like that's a thing where people they just negate their real life and just care about their artistic life. Did you ever feel like you were getting to that point with fans?
Yeah, that it's another great point. You'll never, and we're always guilty of it as like consumers of media. It's like when there's like people watch Game of Thrones and like look at the outrage over the Game of Thrones finale and like the
Yeah.
that last season in particular, and people get so upset and they take so much ownership over this thing that they don't help out in any way. Like they don't help write, they don't help produce, they're not shooting it, they're not editing it, but they take so much ownership over a storyline and things, and there's no there's no sort of pause over like the people making it, and we just want more and more and more. And like I'm guilty of it all the time. Like I loved this last season of Watchmen that just came out, and it's like uh, David Lindelof said he's not going to make a season two, and it's kind of like, well, come on, the first season was so good.
Yeah.
Like why wouldn't And there's a lot of that, and then I have to catch myself being like, dude, that's like I've made a decision. There's a billion reasons that go into it. There's a billion shows for you to watch. They're just move on. And same thing with Kanye. Like this last Kanye album, it was like I thought the production was so good, and it was like everything Kanye's ever done is kind of built up as far as production is built up, and some of the best produced tracks I've ever heard from Kanye. But then the whole gospel side of it, people are like so upset about it, and they're like, I just can't vibe. I can't like bob my head to this song because it's about Jesus, and like I'm not a super religious guy, but like I thought like the fact that this dude is taking major risks, following his heart, doing like he's one of the few artists out there, and like people are giving him shit over like caring about a message, and like at the same time, like a lot of these songs fucking slap big time. Even if you find yourself fucking chanting about Jesus and
Yeah.
like gospel and all this stuff that you don't normally like to listen to songs about, we really have to check ourselves as like people who consume media and like give the artist the ability to be an artist. And I'm not saying like as a YouTuber, like I'm an artist, but as a person who creates stuff, who's created stuff. If you like that person, support that person. If you don't, you have a million other things to put your energy into and your time into. And did I think the last Kanye album was his best? I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good album. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is probably still my favorite album. But like, guess what? I'll buy the next album. I'll buy the next album. I'll buy the stupid hat at the show. You know what I mean? Like, the dude is interesting to me as a person. Whether or not he's like, I don't care who he votes for and what his political leanings are. I'm just into. I think the dude's talented, and that's enough for me to support the guy. And like, if he wants to take a risk, it's so much better for him to like take a risk that we sometimes may not like than to just churn out like mediocre, watered down bullshit. And that is for us to get angry with people that are giving us things is like a choosy beggar thing, and I don't buy into it. There's plenty of people churning out shit for you to like get angry about.
That's a fact. I'm glad you brought up Kanye and talking about God, because I did think the album was god awful. I just I'm not gonna when you mentioned God, I was thinking of that joke the whole time. I was like, I'm just gonna sit on that one right there. But no, I agree with you. That production, like on Close on Sunday, I was like, this production is amazing. And then you start rapping, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I I couldn't rock with it. And it wasn't because of
Yeah,
Jesus. It wasn't because of Jesus or God. Because I love gospel music. I grew up around a whole bunch of older black people who listen to
right.
damn near Negro spiritual. So
Dude,
I'm a big fan
that's
of
a
that.
point of view. That's a great point of view. I didn't listen to gospel music as a at ever really,
Yeah.
right? Except like in the Sister Act movies where I fucking memorize every single one of those songs. But like the fact that he was bringing something to me that I would have never experienced otherwise, I think is fascinating, and I think it's great. And if it means what if now I'm like, oh, maybe I'm a gospel guy, and I do start to get into gospel. I'm like, all of a sudden I'm a gospel fan because this very mainstream person introduced me to it. I think you're absolutely like entitled to think the album wasn't as good, but you're still a Kanye fan, right? It didn't take you off the Kanye train. I mean, maybe it did, but like I don't think him making that album is enough of a reason to stop, vibing with the dude.
No, I agree. I feel like it's funny that you say that. Like you might be a gospel fan now because I thought it was very humorous to see like a whole bunch of like white kids like, oh yeah, this is a great gospel album. Like I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you've never heard a gospel album in your life. It was just really
Well,
funny.
totally, dude.
It was
But
really
like,
funny to see him like kind of just having all of these people like when he do the Sunday services. I see a bunch of white people like,
yeah,
yeah, like praise the Lord. I'm just like, yo, this is
yeah,
crazy. It was crazy to see. It was crazy.
yeah. Like me and my brother saw him at the Forum. My brother went to we saw him do the listening party. Right as like the day the album released,
Yeah.
we went to the listening party at the Forum, and then my brother went to Sunday service. And it's like we're not religious dudes, but like, would it be so bad if there were more people who were vibing with gospel music
No,
in the world?
not
You
at
know what
all.
I mean? Like, I don't think that's so bad. You know what I mean? And the ultimately the messages that he's saying, if they're a little they're a little Bible thumpy, that's fine. But he just looks like a dude who's like he's a dad. You know what I mean? He's like got a family. He wants to like not so different than what I'm doing myself. Just like maturing a little bit and wanting to make sure that your legacy isn't all about um, hookers and blow and like who you're banging and like it's like a little bit. He's trying to cement some sort of legacy that is bigger and deeper than his prior albums. And old Kanye fans probably be upset with it, but we still have all his old albums. They didn't
Yeah.
go anywhere. We can listen to those at any time. I think it's cool to see a dude on a journey and still making interesting stuff. And then on that song, Jesus is Lord, like the last two songs on the album, like the production on those, regardless of what I think about the lyrics, like just the horns on the Jesus is Lord song, I wish that song was like 20 minutes long.
That's the one he's
It's
singing,
like,
right? With the Jesus is Lord. That's the one, right?
yeah, and it's got the crazy horns in it. I love it, and I remember seeing it at the end of the Jesus is King movie, the film, which was like I saw it twice for some reason because I bought tickets to the IMAX, and then he also showed it at the listening party. I don't think I would ever need to see it again, but like they play it during the credits of that song, and I was like, God, this fucking song slaps. And then it came out on the album, and you know, I as a guy who's never listened to gospel outside of Sister Act, who's somebody who's not tapped into that world, really appreciated the like sort of Kanye's version of it, and it would make me interested in like hearing what you think a real gospel album is, and I think that's like a worthy achievement of some sort, and it's different, and it's not something he's done before.
Yeah, I don't think there's a like it's weird when people get mad at it because I mean, if believing in God and believing in Jesus and him going to church, if that makes him happy, I don't get why that would make anybody
Yeah,
upset. That's something that's bringing him peace. Well,
yeah,
good.
that's so
That's
bad.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's weird to me. But no,
I would take 100 religious people in my neighborhood versus like 100 atheists, and it's like I want people living with values. Like I said, I'm not super religious. I don't go to church. I do have some sort of faith, but um, I would always choose, and that's why I love Mormons. Like I love the values that they're taught, and I love how they live their lives. For the most part, some weird shit in there,
yeah,
but I would rather have people that like in their mottos and in their creed is like do unto others as you want done to yourself. It's like the golden rule. That's important. You get a bunch of atheists running wild out there, in your neighborhood stealing your mail, kicking your dog. You know what I mean? It's like it's a different story.
Like,
That's just me.
does that nigga have 666 written on his van?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what's going on with this nigga?
yeah,
But,
exactly.
it's funny because I'm a psychology major in sociology class that I took a couple semesters ago. It's literally like a chapter about solidarity and how church is one thing that brings major solidarity and has a lot of unison. So you kind of have a point. When people are in a religion, they're kind of united and they're solid and they're all together. So living in a neighborhood with a whole bunch of religious people, that's not a bad idea at all. And I kind of wanted to circle back to something because you're from like the Saudi Arabia, Jordanian area, right?
Yeah, I was born in Jordan. Yeah, I grew up Muslim, but my parents weren't super religious. So when we came to the United States, I lived in Jordan for like the first 6 months of my life, and then we lived in Saudi Arabia for until I was four, so like 3.5 years, and then we moved to Florida. Um, so it's very different, and that sort of religious lifestyle is very different than like the religious lifestyles out here, and Catholics and Christians and Jews. And um, I don't, I have my own personal feelings about Islam. I think praying 5 times a day is like a lot. It's a little much. Waking up at 5 a.m. to do it. Uh, I have weird feelings about like having to wait till you're married to have sex, which a lot of religions have. But there are certain things I think, as far as like family based values, that I love about religion. Then there are certain things that are just very like just too literal, that people are literally taking out of the Bible and living their lives to the word, which is I think is a little much. Um, I'd say just take the ideas of being a good person and treating your neighbor well. You know, um, those are important things to me. I don't know about like stoning gay people, or like never laying down with another man. Like I don't know if that stuff should be taken super literally from the Bible, because that shit was written thousands of years ago and stuff's changed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the idea of the religious people in the neighborhood. It would be cool to like have an Amazon package delivered and not have to like check my doorbell cam, every 10 minutes to make sure it's still there, or be able to have a neighbor just pick it up and watch it for me. There's certain things that I think I've come around to, in my older age. And religion's one of those things where I have faith. I don't practice a specific religion, but if you would ask me, even 5, 6 years ago, I'm like, oh, I'm an atheist. There's nothing out there. There's absolutely nothing out there. So I was so sure of it, and like think of the ego that comes with believing something like that. Like, how can I ever know? You know what I mean? There's literally no way for me to know. There's nothing bigger than me out there, and that sort of reasonable doubt is enough to have some sort of faith. That's it.
Oh, man, I'm feeling like I'm talking to my wise principal right now, man. You got like the
Yeah,
grays in the beard, you got the fuzzy coat.
that's right. I know.
This is
I know,
amazing.
dude. I got the old man thing. I
But
was
no,
gonna say the Cosby look, but I
yeah,
can't.
I don't know if you want that. And then
Uh,
I don't know what's in. I don't know
okay.
what you're drinking right now. I don't know what's in there. So I don't know if you
It's
got.
coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
no, the reason I brought up the Saudi Arabia Middle East thing is because actually not about religion. It's a lot of ungodly fucks over there, and it's not where you think I'm going with this. I need you to speak for these people. So on my porn interviews, man, the comments that I get are crazy. But the craziest ones I get are people from the Middle East. I
huh.
swear, some of the I don't know if you experienced this on your porn interviews, but man, like I'll interview a porn star, and it would be like somebody with just like a obviously Middle Eastern name, and it's like Milky Tits. Just like, all right, man. This one dude put his WhatsApp number and was like, "Call me, baby."
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
It's
I've definitely gotten that. It's like that part of that region of the world consumes more porn than like per capita than anywhere
why do you
else.
think that is though?
It's because they don't have access. Like they can't have sex till they're married, quote unquote. They don't have everything on TVs. Like everyone's bundled up. You just see eyes. It depends on country to country, but like they are sexually, uh, you know, they're like boiled. They're boiling Like some of these dudes are gonna have fucking cum coming out of their eyes. Like their shit is coming. Like they are so charged, and I do specifically have experience with people like that in the comments, and then also you'll get the same from the same part of the world is like, oh, you're a bad Muslim. Like look at you, look at the shit you're doing.
Mm.
Talking to these like filthy women. The amount of like female objectification and the way they talk about women, certain people talk about women from those countries, it's like unreal. It's unreal to like think that all the way in LA in 2020, you can be born a man who becomes a woman who like is gay, but is it's like you can have all these choices as a person because you have rights as a human being, but like just halfway around the world, it's like no, you can't, and you will be publicly stoned, or maybe now they've moved into like a private stoning ceremony, but yeah, that part of the world is very different. And I went back to Jordan in like 2014, and it's a little more progressive in Jordan. It's not, Saudi Arabia specifically is like the harshest. It's it's like women just got the ability to drive like a couple
Yeah.
3 years ago. It's gnarly over there, but also those dudes love porn. You know what I mean?
Bro,
And
it's crazy. Like I was live streaming, and I've literally never seen this guy comment in my live stream. This dude in my live stream, he was talking about porn. He mentioned like something about Brazilian porn. This guy I've never seen come out of nowhere. He's like, "Ooh, I love big, wet, juicy Brazilian asses." I was like, "Yo," and I looked at his name, and I was like, "Oh, okay, man, you're wild." But yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy, man.
yeah, man. Porn is one of those things that everyone watches around the world. It's one of those things that unites us.
It's like
It
religion.
always will.
It's like religion,
It
man. It's
always
very
will. That's
solitary.
right.
But
It unites us in a way that religion could never.
that's a fact.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to keep you for too long, but I do want to. I do want to run this by you, and I'm very curious of what you would think about this man on the street video idea.
Uh huh.
If anybody steals this, I'm gonna have to shoot you.
We
But
have record of it.
yeah, we definitely have record of it.
Yep.
So the political atmosphere is getting crazy, and there's a lot of quote unquote fake news. And I honestly think it's very crazy for people to be super liberal or super conservative because when you get to that point, you believe anything they say. Like I'll see Trump say something that's just like false, or I'll see a Democrat say something that's false, and their supporters would be
Yep.
like, "Oh no, but this happened or this happened."
Right.
So what I want
Right.
to do is I want to Photoshop some crazy headlines, like some ridiculous headlines, like Bernie Sanders is going to legalize CBD weed for 5-year-olds or something like that, and
Yeah.
take it to a Bernie Sanders rally and just show them different headlines I created, make it look real, and see how far they'll go to defend it. Like, so did you hear the breaking
Yeah.
news? No, what's the breaking news? Well, Bernie Sanders is going to do this and that. I want to see how far they'll be like, oh, well, I understand why he would do that, and I want to see how many people would be like, oh, that's crazy. I honestly think it'd be more people to die on the hill than actually take
Yeah.
a stand. So I don't know.
I love that idea. I think Jimmy Kimmel does a very similar version of it called Live Witness News,
Yeah.
where they do that, but it's not, anyone can do it. I think it's so funny. It's harmless. You know what I mean? I personally really dig that sort of stuff where you're pointing at the absurdity of politics. Um, people really aren't, it just points at people aren't really paying attention to the actual policies as they are just to the person, and like it's very easy to exploit that. And I think that'd be great.
Hey man,
I'd watch it.
hey man, if I get a Kassem G watch, then I'm out of here.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. Let me know. Let me know. I'll thumbs it up.
And
What
you're
do
like
you do? What do you do now? Thumbs up, or do you? How do you rate? Yeah, I think that's.
I think it's still a thumbs up. You're like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Rocket League professional, apparently.
Oh yeah, I did like. I got into Rocket League. I like video games. I've always liked video games. I think esports is like super fascinating, emerging industry. Even though it's like been around for a while now, but people are just now catching on. But yeah, my game of choice is Rocket League. I'm sure you have people watching this that play Rocket
Yeah.
League. It's a fun game that I think the reason I like it is because it's just very fun to play.
It's super
but
fun.
anyone can watch it and understand what's happening. Right? There's just two goals. There's a ball, and then a bunch of cars that are trying to knock the ball into the goals. I think that's super easy to get. It's not like League of Legends or like Dota or some of these games where you like got to take some sort of like advanced class to understand what's happening. And yeah, it's fun, and I've been able to like lucky enough to host some like events for it, and I know a few of the players. It's weird being a 36-year-old man and then like following a bunch of like 16-year-old boys on Twitter because they're Rocket League pros. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's a one of those things that I like to do to pass the time.
Super exhilarating. Like when the clock is counting down, it's tied up. It's like, oh, is he gonna score? Is he gonna score? It's a
I
really really
know
fun
it's
game.
fun, man.
Really
It's
fun
fun
game.
if you haven't played it, download it and play it.
Super duper fun. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about your podcast before we get out of here, man?
Oh yeah, I do a podcast. It's called Pajama Pants. I do it with my buddy Rob Eiler and Jamie Lynn Sigler. They were on a show called The Sopranos. They were the son and the daughter on The Sopranos, and the three of us just kind of shoot the shit every week. We just had Joey Coco Diaz on last week, and we had Dr. Drew, and we kind of just started a couple 3 months ago. But we're having fun, and that's on iTunes, and we put the videos up on YouTube too.
Hey man, anything else you have to say before we get out of here?
No, man, I really appreciate you having me on, and I wish you the best of luck with this, and let me know when that video's up. And it is really flattering for you to ask me to come and be on it.
Like I said, man, you're the really main reason. Like you're the reason I went viral. That's crazy. Like I would have never did those videos probably if I would have never seen your videos. You're the reason.
You're the reason.
Shut
You're
up.
the reason
Shut
you
up.
went
Shut
viral.
up. Shut up. You're the reason that I went viral. That's crazy.
All right, well, make sure you send me a check for all that.
Hey man, and I really appreciate for everybody for watching.
All right.
And until next time, everybody. I say what I mean what I say. Haters are gonna hate. Players are gonna play. And you guys holler at your boy.